Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks with me, Zakir Jacob. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi visited the BMW World factory in Germany, where he mounted on a BMW motorcycle. He explored the company's flagship cars, but he also used the visit to underline his argument that India needs to strengthen its manufacturing base and create more production-linked jobs. Now, but here's the thing. Mr. Gandhi is free to criticize the economy under Mr. Modi. That's his job as leader of the opposition. But the reality tells a different story. Indian manufacturing is actually seeing a big boom. India's exports, despite the Trump tariffs, the 50%, they have actually grown more than 20% in the month of November, just to the United States alone. Overall exports to the US are at $38 billion, which is higher than previous months. When it comes to cars, because he was specifically talking about cars in the BMW factory, India is exporting today more than 5 million cars globally, and it's growing at 20% per annum. So this argument about Indian manufacturing having a slump or declining, is that a fair argument? Or is Mr. Gandhi using a familiar trope, something that he's used before as well, of trying to defame India, the Indian government, the Indian economy story? Remember, he's famously agreed with President Trump, saying that the Indian economy is dead, when no one thinks it's dead. For God's sake, it's growing at 8.2% last quarter. You may debate and quibble with the numbers, but those are the numbers for what it's worth. 8.2%, fastest growing large economy in the world. So is this a familiar political ploy that Mr. Gandhi is using, which is to defame the Indian economy and India and the Indian government from foreign soil? Or is there merit in his argument that we're not creating enough manufacturing jobs? Now, let me put some of the facts out there for our viewers to judge before we open this up to our panelists. Here's where the numbers stack. There's no politics around it. This is hard data. Here's how the numbers stack. Some facts that Mr. Gandhi and the Congress should consider. In 2014-15, India's total electronics production stood at a little over 1.9 lakh crores, about 2 lakh crores, you could say. In 10 years, by 24-25, that has surged more than 5 times to 11.3 lakh crores. That's almost a 500% increase over the last 10 years. Electronics exports were 38,000 crores in 2014-15. That has jumped almost 10 times to 3.27 lakh crores in 2024-25. Now, if you look at the number of mobile manufacturing units that India had 10 years ago, it had just 2 mobile manufacturing units. In the last 10 years, India has added more than 250 units. There are now 300 units that manufacture mobile phones in the country. That's a staggering almost 15,000% increase. Mobile phone production, the value of mobile phones that are produced in India, manufactured in India, rose from 18,000 crores in 2014-15 to over 5 lakh crores in 2024-25. When it comes to mobile phone exports, there were only 1,500 crores worth of mobile phone exports in 2014-15. Today, they stand at 2 lakh crores. Even in vehicular production, which is what Mr. Gandhi was criticizing because he was at the BMW factory, if you look at India, circa 1991, when India was just beginning to open up, India produced about 2 million vehicles annually. Today, the same India has produced 28 million vehicles annually, which is a 10-fold increase over the last 30 years. So the question is there merit to the argument that he's making? Let's first listen into what Mr. Gandhi said, and then we will get some political reactions as well. We'll open this up to our guests as well.
देश के एलओपी का एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण दायित्व होता है। बहुत रेस्पॉन्सिबल तरीके से देश के एलओपी को बिहेव करना होता है, विशेष करके जब एलओपी विदेश की भूमि में होते हैं। पार्लियामेंट यहाँ चल रहा है। पार्लियामेंट में बहुत सारे महत्वपूर्ण बिल्स पे चर्चा हो रही है और इंडियन डायस्पोरा को एड्रेस करने के लिए राहुल गांधी जर्मनी में है और विदेश की भूमि से भारत को अपमानित करना और भारत के विरोध में बोलना कहीं न कहीं दिखाता है कि राहुल गांधी और कांग्रेस पार्टी के मन में किस प्रकार की भावना भारतवर्ष को लेकर है।
ये आलोचना नहीं है, ये फैक्ट है, और जो फैक्ट है वो तो कहा जाएगा वो सारी दुनिया को मालूम है। सवाल सिर्फ इतना सा उठता है कि विदेशी धरती पे जब प्रधानमंत्री जाके कहें कि सबसे भ्रष्टाचारी देश हिंदुस्तान था, मेरे पहले वहाँ लोग किसी का विश्वास नहीं करते थे। तो प्रधानमंत्री जर्मनी में, चाइना में, जापान में, हर देश में बोले तो वो बात जब आलोचना करें तो वो नहीं करनी चाहिए। पर ये तो दिस इज फैक्ट, ये तो पूरी दुनिया को मालूम है।
I want to go for a straight face-off on this. Tuin Sinha, national spokesperson of the BJP, is joining us. Sujata Paul is spokesperson of the Congress Party, who's joining us. Sujata Paul, let me start with you, ma'am, because look, Rahul Gandhi is free to criticize the government, Mr. Modi's policies, the economy. All of that is kosher, but it should be in keeping with facts, right? Here are the facts. The number of vehicles that India produced in 1991, just as India was opening up, was 2 million units annually. Today, we are producing 28 million units. That's a more than 10-fold increase. Even in vehicle exports, India's automobile exports rose to 53 lakh, 5.3 million units across all vehicle categories, growing at almost 20% year on year. These are the facts. You can't quibble with these facts. You can't quibble with this data. You can make political points, but let's be honest to the facts.
Let's be honest to the facts. And what Mr. Rahul Gandhi said was that TVS company's 450cc bike was being developed with BMW, and the Indian flag is flying high, and that's great to see. But in India, if you want to make sure that we are a strong economy, we should look at manufacturing because it is declining. And I am going to quote to you from the Hindu of 1st December 2025, where it has been mentioned that manufacturing has been at an all-time low in 9 months. And it says, I quote, the seasonally adjusted HSBC India Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, that is PMI, fell from 59.2 in October to 56.6 in November, highlighting the slowest improvement in operating conditions since February. So clearly, when you are going to be selective about data, that will raise questions, because if you're really patriotic, you will want your country to better. But you were talking about the mobile phones which were being exported,
yeah.
manufactured. Yes. And I thank you for doing that, because the fact of the matter is that if I start rattling off the data, which is really a long list, the components which are being used are not manufactured in India, please. It is all imported from various countries, even Korea, China, etc. So what is this? We are assembled in India rather than manufactured in India.
No, but
When the Prime
can I
Minister
just, no, ma'am, can I just, give you a couple of, that 59.2 that you talked about in October, I believe, was a 17-year high. The Purchasing Manufacturing Index has never been this high as far as India is concerned in manufacturing. Now, on the question of mobile phones, since you brought it up, here are the facts, right? Mobile phone exports from India rose from 1,500 crores in 2014-15 to over 2 lakh crores in 24-25. That is a more than 100 times increase. Now, please tell me, how is that a problem, or how is that an issue to be taken politically on? Like I said, please attack Mr. Modi, please attack his policies, economy, whatever you want to attack. But the data says there's been a 100 times jump in mobile phone exports.
Don't keep talking about attacking anybody. This country belongs to Mr. Gandhi as well as Mr. Modi.
Of course.
And if you're yes, so it's not about attacking one person. It is talking about bettering our country. And like I said, what is being exported? First, to import, we could manufacture that. And during the pandemic, we could have really become the manufacturing hub of the subcontinent, at least, if not the world. Okay. And clearly, somewhere we have been missing on that. And when you talk about exports, it's actually, importing the parts, the components, assembling them.
Okay, you made that point. We're assembled in India, we're not making India. Tuhin Sinha, 2 points. Number one, because of the Trump tariffs, 50% tariffs that he has imposed, in the month of September, exports to the US fell by 12%. In the month of October, it fell by 9%. Now, the point that Mr. Gandhi is making is we're anyway not growing our manufacturing to the extent that it needs to create 2 crore jobs in a year. Today, the contribution of manufacturing to GDP has slipped to 14.5, which is the lowest in decades. So yes, he has a point when he says that manufacturing is where you have the most labor-intensive, jobs that are created. Therefore, you need to grow your manufacturing. You're not able to grow it. So yes, you're not growing fast enough.
Jaka, good evening, Jaka. Good evening, everybody. Rahul Gandhi is a compulsive pessimist. Generic data does not do justice to India's manufacturing foray, the vast strides which India has taken since 2014. For me, you have already provided the difference. I don't even need to spell out the data because that is what I was going to do initially when it comes to electronics production vis-a-vis 2014 and what it is now when it comes to mobile manufacturing. So I'm not even getting into that. But let us realize the paradigm shift that has happened in the last 11 years. We have streamlined, we have focused our production into the absolute high value sectors. For example, the defense production today stands at 1,50,590 crores. What was it in 2014? It was a mere 46,000 crores, and India, could not imagine manufacturing some of the high weaponry which we do now, whether it is BrahMos or others. When it comes to shipbuilding, what is the size of India's shipbuilding industry today? It is $1.12 billion. In 11 years ago, it was 1/10 of that. So when it comes to the space sector, when it comes to the semiconductor manufacturing, they could not even think of semiconductor manufacturing. Our initiation should have begun ideally 2 decades back. Today,
But
in the next 5 years, India is going to be the hub of semiconductor manufacturing across the world.
That Mr. Gandhi is making is, when COVID happened, the government talked about China +1. We're going to be the China +1. People are going to offshore to India and we'll become the China +1. Nothing of that sort has happened. 2, you talked about semiconductors. Just recently, Mr. Trump has announced an alliance called Pax Silica. It has America and 8 other countries. It has Japan, South Korea, Israel. There's no India. If we are a semiconductor manufacturing hub, why is India not part of this rare earths and semiconductor alliance? So these are questions that are genuine questions which need to be asked.
Jaka, if you look at pure data, the sheer magnitude at which semiconductor manufacturing units are coming across in 6 different states. Obviously, India is going to be a power of its own. Certainly, the other, who builds up these alliances, and keeps India out? Only those countries would keep India out who know the prowess of India, which is something Rahul Gandhi fundamentally does not realize. He's fundamentally cynical about India's strides, about India's abilities, and which is what makes the entire approach of Congress party very cynical today.
So, Ms. Sujata Paul,
I can provide you data of India's
the point is, India last quarter 2, July to September, grew at 8.2%. No country on the planet, no large economy on the planet is growing at 8.2%. This is even beating forecasts by RBI, forecast by IMF, by World Bank. Now, please tell me, if an economy is growing at 8.2%, fastest for any large economy in the world, then surely manufacturing must be growing, surely exports must be growing. I mean, this is basic economics, ma'am.
Come on. There are favorable overall demand conditions, but we are not being able to fulfill it. And let's talk about data only. If you talk about in absolute terms, fine. You can say whatever you feel like. We might be seeming to grow in absolute terms. But what about the share in GDP? It has been at 16 to 17% for the last 20 years, 15 years, or 10 years, 11 years. So where is the change? You have to explain whether in the last 11 years have we changed from 16 to 17% of the GDP in the manufacturing sector. One. Secondly, when you talk about the growth rate, is it, we are talking about growth rate here. We are not talking in absolute terms again. Because when you are looking at absolute terms, you're not talking about the increase in the dollar, rupee, so you are not even considering all those factors. You're giving me data about
a $4 trillion economy growing at 8% is certainly growing in absolute terms faster than a $2 trillion economy growing at 5%. I mean, it's obvious.
I'm asking you, the GDP, is it increasing? It is, what is it as far as the GDP is concerned? You tell me. You give me your
It is
data. 15 to
increasing
16%,
the
or
last
16 to
quarter,
17%
July to
is what it
September
has been
quarter,
in the last
India's
10 to 11
no,
years.
India's GDP in the last quarter, quarter 2, July to September, which is the last quarter that we have data for, grew at 8.2%. Which is
Listen.
higher than what anybody anticipated. Even the government did not
Listen,
anticipate it would get 8.2%.
Mr. Modi had clearly said, and he had said it correctly, that the Make in India goal was going to be 25% if we really wanted to achieve world standards. But if you yourself are sticking to this 8.2% growth rate, then I am asking you what percent of the GDP is being contributed
GDP
to
growth
manufacturing?
rate at 8.2. China is
It's
growing at
being-
5%, madam.
I am asking you a question, Zaka.
Anyway, okay.
Give me an answer to that.
No,
What percent of the GDP is the manufacturing sector?
No, no. So
Can you give me that data?
I exactly asked that question to Tuhin Sinha. We are still stuck at 15%. We should be at 20 or 25%. I agree with you. That's not the debating point at all. The debating point is if the Indian economy, the overall Indian economy is growing at 8.2%, then sure, and manufacturing PMI in October was at 59, which is a 17-year high, then surely you cannot make the case. No one can make the case that in India manufacturing is declining or the Indian economy is dead. That's what Mr. Gandhi is making.
Not at all. What he's saying is that according to what we had done during the UPA era, the momentum that we had built, did that momentum gain further in the NDA government? No, it hasn't. It has stagnated, and that is why manufacturing overall has dipped. And because the component of the GDP should have shown us an increase. If there was more demand, should it not be more in terms of GDP?
Tuhin, please respond. The contribution of manufacturing as a percentage of GDP has not increased. It's at multi-year low, and only manufacturing can create the number of jobs that you need, because otherwise you're going to have jobless growth, and that's been a constant complaint of not just the opposition. Even industry has been talking about jobless growth. Yes, Tuhin.
Number one, I think Congress just missed my point. Our focus on high value sectors, is where the growth in manufacturing is. If there are certain other sectors, which have not grown, the future is about AI. The future is about the space sector. The future is about defense. And that is where our growth has been something to watch out for, which the Congress refuses to acknowledge. Now, I am surprised at the way they are undermining the GDP growth. If there are sectors like services, which has always been a stronghold and which continue to be a stronghold and which are contributing to the 8.2% GDP rise, quarterly, will Congress, just abandon services? I think the Congress also needs to have a more holistic, a more pragmatic, and a more nuanced approach. Like I mentioned, these 4 or 5 sectors, whether it is defense, space, semiconductor, shipbuilding, are the future, and that is where, generic data and short-term data can be misleading, but our thrust on these sectors is going to take India forward.
I'm completely out of time. Sujata Paul, 10 seconds. I've got to wrap up after that.
Yes,
10 seconds,
absolutely.
please.
The Prime Minister had said, and it was projected that the manufacturing in GDP was projected to be about 25% by 2022. And the GDP share of manufacturing in 2013 to 2014 was 16.7%, which has fallen to 15.9% in 23-24. What are you talking? This is hard data.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to both.